Alyx Coby is one of Ireland's top female racing drivers. She established her name in karting and just last year made her debut in Atlanta February 22 in a GT4 car. She won that and now has her sights set on becoming a professional circuit driver, something that has not yet been achieved by any other woman in Ireland. She's just back from a 9-week stint in the States where she was working with top US sports car team Random Vandals Racing and is continuously backed by formerly a female and Olympian and hockey star Nicci Daly. We'll dive into all of that now in more detail on the Her Sport Show. Here she is. So Alyx, you've just returned home from 9 weeks in the States. How are you settling back into life back here in Ireland?
It's crazy enough. It is exactly how I left it. I went into the town on my first day back and I was like, nothing has changed. Nothing has changed, but it's great to be home, great to see my family and stuff. It is a bit surreal because those 9 weeks, the first 4 weeks, you're like, am I ever going to get home? And then the last 5 weeks, you're like, oh my God, I'm nearly home. Feels like it flies in, but yeah, no, it's great.
It must be an interesting one as well because obviously you're coming from the heights there of Random Vandals Racing around America and now you're back home. Kildare is home, I believe.
Yeah, Kildare is home. It is crazy because those 9 weeks, all we did was travel. I was never in one place and I come here now and I feel like I've been nailed down. I can't go in, like I can go places, but I cannot travel to the extent that I have been. So I feel like I've been going on the slow at the moment, but it's nice to kind of sit down and relax for a little while, considering how much stuff we have been doing the last few weeks.
I'm sure, and at 19, you're travelling the world basically pursuing this dream. Back now for Christmas. Do you ever get homesick at all?
Yeah, the first few weeks were torture. I thought about just giving up. I was like, I'm just going to go home. I'm just going to see my mum and dad. I'm going to stay there, live a normal life. It's fine. I'm okay with it. And then after the fourth week, after all the crying and tears and kicking, I was like, I just need to stick it out. This is what I want to do. So as I keep saying, it has been a short-term sacrifice for the long-term game I want. So yeah, the last few weeks were fine. They flew in, and as I said, I travelled so much it feels normal because as a kid I always travelled. So there's nothing new there really.
How did you get into it then? I know your dad and your uncle were involved in motorsport. That's probably the avenue, I'm guessing, that brought you into it.
Yeah, it's a bit crazy because if you don't grow into a motorsport family, it is quite hard to get into it. It's not like football or basketball or anything. You don't go into it through school. But yeah, my dad had picked it up when he was a teenager, which was quite rare to be picked up, and especially back then when it definitely wasn't that big. But yeah, my dad started when he was a teenager, and then my uncle slowly fell into it as well. And it was something that they obviously didn't know, but completely excelled at. They were apparently one of the best drivers in the country. The both of them combined. You see the cups that we get in the awards nights and stuff, and you see like Alan Coby, Gary Coby on all of them. And so then when I was a year old, before I was born, my dad started a race team of his own, which was huge. It was one of the biggest teams in the country. And he continued to race himself until I was about a year old. So my mum was pregnant on me walking around the track. That's how long my family has been in. That's how long I've been in it. It's gone on for so long and consecutively. There's never been a gap where we weren't at a racetrack at least 5 million times a year. Like we do never miss a race ever. And so yeah, so I was always walking around the track as a kid. I was always cycling my bike up and down the paddock, you know, with my grandparents and stuff. And so yeah, I kind of just fell into it that way. I'd like to say I had a choice in the matter. I actually didn't. Not that I'm complaining, I absolutely love it, but it wasn't something that I woke up one day and said, oh, I want to do that. Or I seen it on TV and go, yeah, that's what I want to do. It was more when I was 6, my dad said, we're going to put her in a cart, see how she gets on. And that was it. I took to it really, really well, apparently, as a 6-year-old would. And yeah, it was basically history since then. My dad lost his head after that. He was like, this is all we're doing, this is her life now. And I was completely fine with that. I grew up not knowing anything else, and I can see now as a 19-year-old, I obviously have a choice whether it's something I want to do or not. And of course, that's what I want to do. And it is quite weird that way. You know, it's not something that was, you know, picked by myself, but it's still something that I was meant to do. It's weird. It was basically like fate, that kind of way. And I appreciate it a lot more because it's something that was picked for me and it's something I'm really good at. So it's like, how did my mom and dad know that it was going to be something I was good at and that they put so much investment in? And it turned out I wasn't half bad, and that's what I was going to base my career on. It's crazy because you don't, I mean, there are probably football families, like big football families, big rugby families that do that to their children as well. But majority of the time people just fall into it, where I didn't.
It was written in the stars that way. So. On that as well, I noticed on your TikTok, I saw your dad is probably one of your biggest supporters. Would you say it's nice to keep in touch with him over texts and calls and everything that way?
Yeah, being in America is it's very hard for me and my dad because growing up it was always me and my dad, and I was very grateful for that. I definitely have an exceptional relationship with my parents based on racing. You grow up a lot faster with racing, you seem to appreciate a lot more, and I spent every weekend with my dad. He would work, you know, Monday to Friday, then a half day on Saturday if we weren't racing, but then every Sunday on his day off we'd be at a racetrack, rain or sun, we would be at a racetrack testing, racing, doesn't matter. And the appreciation I have for my dad is huge. He has given up so much, days off work, money wise, just so much time and effort, where sometimes, yeah, I do feel it on my shoulders a bit that I have a lot to give back to him, but at the same point I'm also doing it for myself and he knows that. But yeah, being away from him, he's never missed a race, and now he's missing the biggest part of my career, and it is heartbreaking that he can't come over with me or live where with me, and he has to miss it. And hopefully next year he'll be able to come over and see it. But I remember my first race in the BMW that I won was the first time I'd ever been in the car, and I rang my dad straight away, and the tears, there were so many tears, and I said to him, I was like, I just wish you were here. But I know a lot of people don't have, like a lot of girls wouldn't have a strong relationship with their dad. It'd be more of their mom, you know, because they have more things to relate with, where I'm the complete opposite. My dad is like my best friend. Now my mom is as well, don't get me wrong. The relationship is very equal, but it's me and my dad when it comes to racing. And I feel like we definitely have a different relationship because of that, such a strong one. Like I couldn't, obviously I've moved out. If I wasn't offered that, I'd probably be living with my parents when I had kids. Like that is how strong the relationship is. And I couldn't stress it enough how much love I actually do have for my parents. Like I appreciate them so much, and it's great. As I said, you don't see that a lot, especially at my age. You wouldn't really see that a lot with teenagers and their mom and dad. But I mean, I never really argued that much with my mom and dad because I was afraid they were going to be like, right, well, you're not racing. And that was my biggest fear, is like I can't disrespect my parents at all. I cannot do anything bad because they won't let me race. And that was always it. I could never run away from home, basically.
Then living abroad now and then still obviously pursuing this dream, it must be so great to have people like that in your corner, and then the likes of Nicci Daly as well, who many people will know as the Irish hockey star, but she's heavily involved in motorsport and female motorsport as well. Yeah,
Nicci is definitely a lot more than an Olympian star, which is great to see. You know, she made the Olympics and didn't stop there. She decided hockey isn't the only thing I want to do. She did come from a motorsport background. Her dad and her uncle were very high up racing drivers, and she obviously wanted to just get involved in that. She's always told me that that's something that she always wanted to be involved in, but never really got the chance. Like she was always involved with hockey. But me and Nicci would always joke in the early days that Nicci was my racing mom, you know. And when I first met Nicci, she would drive up to my house at mad time in the morning and we'd go for a run in the Curragh. And I hated her. I was like, this woman is going to absolutely kill me. And yeah, we have our tough times, we have our ups and downs, because she is so determined for me, which is amazing to have someone I'd never met Nicci properly, and she just offered me all these opportunities. I was like, what is going on here? And I wouldn't be where I am without Nicci. Yes, I have my parents to thank, but Nicci has done so much for me that people wouldn't understand. I wouldn't be in America. I wouldn't know the people that I know. I wouldn't be here right now speaking to you if it wasn't for Nicci. There is so many things that Nicci has just invited me along on. Like Golf of Ireland do a International Women's Day, and Nicci gets invited to that. And the first time I got invited was because Nicci said, can I bring Alyx? It's basically, she's one of those figures that are definitely not self-obsessed. They have no problem giving you 80% of their success. And that's why I appreciate Nicci so much. And she came to COTA with me on my last week in America. And I think there should have been tears, because I had come so far and she hadn't seen me for a long time, and I'd come so far, and I think it was definitely a proud moment for both of us. I was able to show her that all the work that she put into my career wasn't wasted, that I'm not only doing this for myself and my parents, I'm also doing this for Nicci, because all that time and support that she put in was massive, and I honestly appreciate her so much for that.
And as you say, Nicci Daly, Olympian, but also the brains behind Formula Female, and she's been inspiring a whole lot of people in the world of women's sport and women's motorsport especially. What do you think, how did that relationship come about? Like, what did she see in you that she was like, yes, we need to channel this now and bring on Alyx to the world stage?
I don't know if you're speaking to her, let me know, because I don't. She just took a chance. She really did. And what Nicci's doing is one of the highest levels of female motorsport. Now, it's not with drivers, but it's trying to get women into motorsport. And you don't see anybody else in the country actually doing that. She did it. She started it, and now it's huge. She's doing it in America now. Like, it's just grown so much. Two of my very good friends from Ireland that are female racing drivers, Ellen Donnelly and Roisin Sweeney, like, they are the only two female drivers in the country that I've been friends with them for years. And I met them from Nicci, because Nicci got them into it or continued to pursue. So Ellen did the Formula Female rental car stuff, and that's how she got into it, fell in love with it, and that's what she does now. That is her dream. Roisin got pushed by Nicci to do it. You know, Formula Female gave us all a platform. Myself, yes, I've been racing for years, but I never had a platform. Nobody ever seen me outside the track until Nicci came along, and I feel like that's the same for everyone. She basically got a group of us and said, I'm going to show the world that there is more than male racing drivers. There are talented female drivers, and I'm going to put them on social media. I'm going to show everyone that we're not just a small country with minimal sport opportunities, that there are people behind the curtain that have or should get the opportunities. And obviously I've excelled from what Nicci has given me, and I see the girls a lot, and I do work with them to try and show them that I was the exact same as they were. I had no intentions of ever moving out of Ireland, ever. And I always say that to Ellen. Ellen is absolutely crazy for motorsport, like day in, day out. She'll watch any race, and if she can race. And I told her, I was like, when you're done college, because she wants to go to college, I told her, when you are done college, you're coming to America with me. Because the amount of opportunities that are over there for you is ridiculous, because nobody knows her from America. But I already know that when they meet her, that's something that people are going to invest in. And that's just, I don't like to, look like I'm speaking down on her at all from, oh yeah, this is what I'm doing. But I'll just show her that, we were the exact same. And I'm racing cars now. You can be the exact same. You can do that. And I've seen what she's done. I've seen the racing that she's done. And so for me, I'm like, I know that you deserve it just as much as I do. You put in so much work. And I feel like that's a message that Formula Female really gives across for everyone, is you don't have to be rich. You don't have to come from a racing background, which is so important. As I said, if you do not grow up in a racing background, it's so hard to get into it. But Nicci has shown girls in schools what motorsport is, how to be an engineer, how to be a driver coach, how to be a racing driver, just from meeting them in a school and showing them based on sim stuff that they can do it. And so that's a big thing, is showing girls that have never thought about it. Because as I said, you see football and basketball, that comes from school, but racing doesn't. And now it can, which is great.
That should be an ad now for Nicci. We'll have to send that on to her, clip it up. But no, so true. Like, it does take those trailblazers to kind of change the game, and Nicci's doing that. You're doing that. Even last week, you know, we had the sad news, the passing of Rosemary Smith, and she did so much for motorsport in this country on the rallying side. You're trying to do that now on the racing side. We're trying to cultivate that role model status within motorsport in Ireland. And how do you kind of take that on? Because you're so young yet, like you're blazing your own path as well.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I didn't know what trailblazing was up until like a good few years ago, actually, when it was put up on Instagram that I was coming through as a trailblazer, and I turned around and I was like, Dad, what is that? And he was like, that's good. So it's actually been a long time that people have been saying that about me, and obviously I've tried to lead up to that. I'm like, yeah, of course I'll take on that role, no problem. And of course Nicci's the same. And with someone like Rosemary Smith, as I've said before, this year, after her passing, I seen Rosemary last year in Kildare village at a Mondello event, and to see someone of her age, I think she was probably 65 at the time, so full of life, so full of passion. And as I said, I think she was driven on pure passion of racing driving that got her up to her last years. Because honestly, if you had met her last year, you wouldn't have thought the news that came out recently would have came out. She was so full of life and encouragement. Like all women in motorsports, all we want to do is push other females. And Rosemary did that. Now, the only thing was Rosemary was pictured and painted as the best female. A lot of her awards were best female driver, best female so-and-so. And I don't think that justified Rosemary enough. I feel that that's something I don't want to lower myself down to either. I don't want to be the best female at racing. It's different because if you're playing football, you can be the best female because you're not mixing it with male. So for me, I'm racing against boys and girls, men and women. So I don't want to say, oh yeah, I'm the best female, because that could be, 60 spots down from number one. I want to be the best version of a professional driver that I can be. I want to be one of the best drivers between men. Like, being men's great. Being able to compete against men on the same level is very gratifying, because obviously when you play football, you can't do that. It's a split, it's a divide. Teams aren't playing against each other. You're not playing against the men. But with racing, you are. Number one is for you or him. You can't split it. So, as I said, I feel like it was something that they shouldn't really... It shouldn't be something you want to succeed to. You don't want to get a female award. You don't want to be the best female. Now, of course, it is an honour to get those awards, but it's not something you should focus on. And I will always say that to people. Why would I want to focus on being the best female at something? Why can't I just be the best person at something? And I think it was in 2021 or 2020, I got the Pride of Ireland award in motorsports. But not the Pride of Ireland as a female. So yeah, there is that, and it's grown off now. You don't get those awards as being the best female. But as I said, yeah, I feel like there was a lot more to Rosemary than lowering our standards down to that.
Yeah, very, very well said. And with that said as well, obviously there is that barrier of maybe funding and that injection of money, but obviously as well there's that inclusivity barrier with women and men in motorsport. How can we make motorsport more inclusive for women, do you think, Alyx?
I think the country just needs to open up to females a bit more. Now, I'm not saying they don't. The country has been, very supportive, like with news and newspapers and interviews and stuff like that. Everyone loves female racing, but I just feel like apart from Formula Female, there isn't a platform for us here at all, which is quite sad. As I said, I had to move across the world to pursue my career because Nicci could only take me so far. And it is very disappointing that we don't have a platform for women based with Motorsport Ireland. Like we do, but it wouldn't be as big as they do in other countries, and probably because our country's so small. But I feel that we need to probably focus on growing that's like the female aspect of this sport here. I feel like we've grown it, we've stopped, and we're just waiting. And I don't exactly know what we're waiting for. We've hit a curveball now where we're just kind of sitting where we are and then bouncing back to where we used to be, where it's not important, nobody focuses on it. And I know it's a contradiction in what I was saying about being the best female and trying to get female awards. I know it's a very big contradiction, but in the country, that's where we are. Nobody's given females the chance to be the best. They're only giving them the chance to be seen as the best female. And so I feel like they need to grow that a bit more before they can, start labeling us as the best. Which is hard to do, but other countries are doing it. And we seem to be just stuck in a rut where we're not. And it's very sad and very disappointing.
And you've accomplished so much, even in those last few weeks, as well as recent years. But in the last few weeks, you've the Sebring and the F1 track at the Circuit of Americas in Texas. Talk to us a bit about those two and those different experiences.
So Sebring was my first race when I got over there, and I was absolutely terrified. It was the first time I'd been to a track where there were walls everywhere, concrete walls, not like little barriers or nothing. Like, you were going through corners at like such high speeds, and you were looking at the walls, like they were straight in your face, and it scared me. The first few laps, it was very scary. And then you slowly just realise and like create this kind of rubber bubble around yourself, and you think, oh, if I hit it, it's not going to do that much damage. It might, but you just need that mentality. And then I got invited to do a shootout with Rafa Racing in a Porsche Cayman. I think literally the following week I went straight from Florida straight to COTA, and getting to go to COTA was very surreal. You watch F1 drivers driving around this track at these top speeds, and you think to yourself, you'd love to be there, and you always say realistically, what are the chances? And then I got to go there twice, once with the Porsche and then with the BMW, and then I actually got to race it with the BMW. The Porsche thing is a shootout, so it's very different. It's stints more so. You're competing against a small group of people. But when I got to go with the BMW with Random Vandals, it was the first time I had ever started a race. So it's an endurance race, so there's 8 hours, and you have 3 drivers, and usually I'd just be in the middle because I wouldn't be used to having to start. But they gave me the opportunity, and it was crazy. It was scary. I was absolutely terrified. Everyone was like, do it, you'll be fine. I was like, well, I don't think I really want to do it. Like, I didn't want to damage the car. And then after the first few laps, I was like, this is exactly like karting. You're trying to make up all those positions in a quick space of time before you have to get out of the car. So that made me find a new love for that kind of racing. And then COTA itself is an absolute experience. The first corner, the elevation on the first corner, the water could just lie on the first corner and not roll down. That is the kind of elevation there is. It's ridiculous. But definitely was an amazing experience. And the fact I've done that in 9 weeks,
Mm.
I'm excited for next year to have a whole year over there and see what I can accomplish then.
Yeah, that's one of the main kind of points I wanted to touch on with you, because obviously you've so much experience in the karting world. Is this kind of the next transition now to try and get into cars, or is that kind of how it works, or do you balance the two in tandem, or what's the story there?
So, of course, like, you start karting at a very young age. I started when I was 6, and my younger brother started even younger. Like, he got his first kart when he was 2 years old. But I started when I was 6, and you obviously move your way up. And it wasn't until October that I actually stopped karting. So I'd been doing it for 13 years, with a bit of F4 in the middle, and then a bit of the Random Vandals Racing in the BMWs. But as I said, I did F4, and that's usually the route. If you do karts, you go into Formula racing to try to get to F1.
Yeah.
Realistically, F1 isn't realistic for everyone in the world, and I was very realistic with myself then growing up. It was something I dreamt of doing, but at the same point I said to myself, you need to look at other avenues and think of backup plans, which I did. I tried F4. It didn't suit me. So then I got an opportunity to race the BMW, and the BMW suited me so much more. GT racing, I feel, wasn't in the cards, wasn't something I ever thought of doing, but I got thrown into it, and it's something that I loved. And that's what I want to pursue now. I want to get to be able to be a professional racer at IMSA, like those really high up GT championships, like go to Le Mans, like do those kind of races, where I would have always wanted to, do a Grand Prix. It is kind of crazy. They're two different things, but they still give you the same satisfaction.
Yeah, I think that's probably a fascinating point for people watching on, because, with the success of, let's say, Drive to Survive or that kind of thing, there's a whole lot of people getting into F1 and racing in general. So that's kind of interesting, the different career trajectories available to everybody trying to go into racing. There's obviously a lot of different avenues that way.
Yeah, I'd hate to see people, knock themselves down because they haven't made it to F1 or F2. It isn't the be all and end all of making a career out of racing. Like you see, I personally thought it was. I thought the only way I'm ever going to make a career or make money out of racing is, is being an F1 driver. It's the only way I'm going to make money, and that's how I grew up imagining it. And now that I've seen a bit more and I've met more people, I'm like, that's not the only thing we can be doing. Like, you can be a driver coach, you can be an engineer, you can be all of these things, still get to see the world and probably race. The amount of drivers I know over in America that not alone race and earn money, but also give out their knowledge to other people by being a driver coach and giving out a hand that way. So it's good to see that. I think even if I don't make a career out of being a racing driver, I can always fall back on being a driver coach or an engineer or running my own team one day. I'm never going to, knock myself down for not accomplishing that, because it's a very hard thing to accomplish, because it is a money man sport. And I didn't grow up with the money that the F1 drivers have. So yeah, it's a difficult thing. But as I said, I don't want people to ever think they need to knock themselves down if they don't get there.
Is that one of the biggest barriers then, would you say, Alex, like all the money and funding that's involved in this space?
Yeah, money and funding is hugely difficult to come across with motorsport, because you have all of these amazing drivers. There are so many out there. You have all of these different avenues, and a lot of sponsors don't actually understand. You can come to, for me, I'd like to, combine with Irish brands. But it's hard to sell Irish brands it's hard to sell motorsport to Irish brands, because motorsport is so small in our country, because it's such a small country. Like, you can't expect much more. But it's a shame how not talked down, but how under talked it is, that the sport is so competitive that not a lot of people know about it. Not a lot of people get to see. It's not televised in the country, and there aren't that many avenues in this country. I think the biggest thing you can do here is rallying, and that is that is the biggest problem with this country. It's so small, and it was a shame I had to go all the way to America, like halfway across the world, to try and find a career for myself instead of being able to rely on my country and what they are going to do for me, which wasn't a lot. Like, I had to leave. I had to go somewhere where someone who had never met me was offering me this big break, where in my own country I was never offered that, which was quite sad. And as I said, with sponsorship, it's not about having one main sponsor. You could go to 5 different small Irish companies and ask for $5,000 off both, or 10 small companies, ask for $5,000 off each of them. That's $50,000 towards your racing budget. But because they have no knowledge of what it is you are actually doing, because they haven't seen outside of these countries' walls, they don't know what they're putting their investments in. And because I haven't done that much over in America yet, it's like, what am I selling to them? I'm selling a dream to them and what I want to do, and a face and what I can offer them, which is quite difficult. Really, really is difficult. But as I said, you don't want one main sponsor. You need to pick a few that are going to be confident in what you're doing. And that's really hard to come across.
Is that the next frontier, do you think, for you personally? Because you obviously have the talent. You're racing on all these big races and in these cars all around the world. Is that the next frontier for you, the backing and the support in that way?
Yeah, I mean, it's always been quite difficult for me. I've never really got financial support from the country, like other drivers might have. For what reasons I honestly don't know. It is a very frustrating topic, and if you speak to Nicci, she'll say the exact same thing. It is very frustrating. Not that the country doesn't have my support at all, they do. It's just there's no support being put in to my racing. There's a support being shown, but no support being put in. And because it is a very expensive sport, as an Irish person, we don't like asking for things. That is just the way we were brought up. But when you're in this sport, you need to look for that money. You need to look for a bit of support from your country. And it's hard. And as I said, it's a shame I've had to go across the world to get that. You know, I'm over in America, and the only funding that I've ever gotten from Ireland is from my parents. Like, that's as simple as that. You know, I've been nominated for like Young Driver Award once and stuff like that, and that gives you a good chunk, but it's never been seen as Alyx Coby's gone to America. She's doing something that no other Irish female has done before, but she's not getting any recognition for it at all, which is very heartbreaking. It's like, what do I have to do to be seen by the sport in the country? Like, it's very heartbreaking, and it makes you wonder, like, what are they trying to push? And yeah, it's probably a bit of, well, why didn't you just stay here and do it here? You're not giving me the opportunities here. I need to go and leave. And a lot of the male drivers are the exact same. Like, you see, a few drivers from Ireland have gone over to Macau, like there a few weeks ago, to do some big stuff. And you see most of our drivers are in England now and just doing European stuff. Like, the best drivers in this country don't race in this country. And so maybe there's a bit of spite there. Maybe the country's like, well, why would we, support you? And it's like, because we're putting the country on the map. We're showing that Ireland is a small country, but we bring a lot of energy and a lot of strength to other places and to the sport. So yeah, it's a conflict, and it is an argument, but it's something that needs to be spoken about, and I feel like nobody is speaking about it, and I might get a lot of backlash for speaking about it, but it's something that it's hard to stay silent about.
Especially given we were talking off camera beforehand about your rigorous, schedule. There needs to be this support if you're to obviously continue doing what you're doing and, paving the way for the future generations as well. Yeah.
I mean, I think for me to try and get that support, it's going to be, going around to different Irish companies, different sponsor opportunities, and, trying to sell them what I have to offer. And then probably down the line it will be the other way around, people coming to me, and God, fingers crossed, because that'd be amazing. But at the moment, you have to work your way up, and that's what I'm going to do. And I have no problem doing that. Honestly, it keeps you grounded, having to go and work for that sponsorship and work for the money that you need. And I think as the years go on and the more I race, it keeps me grounded, it keeps me humble, because I know that I didn't just get this on merit. I've worked for it. And I know that comes across to people. Yeah, I've had it said to me many times, especially in America. I'm very different to a lot of other racing drivers. Now, this isn't coming from me. This is what has been said to me after interviews. That when I'm asked a question that a lot of drivers are asked, I will give them the most humble answer. I'll give them a grounded answer and from the heart, not a robot answer, not an answer that I feel like everyone's going to want to hear.
Yeah.
And I was pretty much brought up that way. I have my own opinions. I don't feel like I need to sell myself as something that I'm not. And I feel like a lot of sports people do that, especially in motorsports. Like, you'll ask someone a question and they'll give you the same question that everyone else will give you. Where do you want to be in 5 years? F1. Why do you want to be there? And it's like, and it's like, why? I know what everyone's going to say. Why would I say it? Why would that make me special? It doesn't. And I feel like that's something I'm very grateful for, is that's how I was brought up. I'll be honest. I'll give you my honest opinion, and especially my honest opinion about myself. I've no problem talking about myself and giving you my negatives and my positives. And I feel like that should be something that sponsors should obviously look at. Not on my point of view, but on other sports people's. I feel like people need to stop sitting down and trying to give sponsors what they want to hear, instead of just saying to them, look, this is what I have to offer, take it or leave it. And I'm going to give you my all. Instead of saying, I'm going to win this, we're going to do this, and sell them a dream that isn't going to happen. Like, be realistic and give that to them. And that's something that I do, and I'm going to keep doing. And if I don't get sponsors from it, that's fine. And if I do, happy days, because I'm just going to give you my true self 100% of the way of my career.
You're dead right. It's very refreshing anyways to hear someone give their point of view. On that, you were talking there about your schedule. What does a typical year look like for you, fitting all this training in? And then I was reading as well, obviously this journey started for you. You were talking about there the karting. And then in 5th year in school, I believe, is when it really kick-started. How did you balance that and factor that all in as well? For, I think, 4th year was quite easy, of course. I just come out of COVID, so we hadn't really much to be doing. But my schedule got strong after COVID, when I was able to do stuff. And during COVID, it was basically practice, fitness, and that was fine. I didn't really have to focus on school that much because we were never there. But 5th year, I got through halfway of 5th year. In September, I was asked to move over to America. And, you know, at what age was I? I was like 17 or something. And that's what I told my teachers, because I was trying to stress myself between working, studying, going to school, racing, fitness, going to a racetrack on the weekends. Like, everything was a lot, and traveling on the other side, because I was also racing in Europe at the time. And that's a lot. And it broke me at points where I was like, can I actually do this? Is this the stress? And then my parents said to me, they were like, Alyx, if you don't do this, you're going to be working in Duns or something. Like, you're going to have a normal life. And they know me. That's not something I'll excel at all. They know I want to see the world. I want to be doing what I'm doing. I don't want to be nailed down to be living in Kildare for the rest of my life. I want to see everything and take all of those opportunities. And as a 17-year-old, I was like, yeah, of course. And then I got into 6th year. I was like, whoa, I have my leaving cert. What am I doing? But I spoke to my teachers, and my teachers said to me, they were like, we know the passion you have for motorsports. We see it. We know how much you miss school for it. And they were nothing but supportive, which was crazy. You know,
if I had a call, if I had a meeting, if I needed my phone for an email that was popping up, I just said it to him. I kept my phone on the desk. I go, listen, I have a call, I have a meeting, I have an email that's coming in that I need to do. I need to do something. No problem. You do that. You can leave if you need to. The support my school gave me was ridiculous. And I thank them so much for it. They never gave me a hard time about missing school or not getting work in time because of what I was doing. Because they said, you're going to go somewhere where a lot of people aren't. You aren't probably going to go to college, because what you want to do, you can't be taught. And all they did was guide me there and give me the tools that I would need for survival skills, basically. Like, from my career so far, I don't need algebra, so they weren't so strict on me, and it was great. But it was hard, like the routines that I had to fall in and had to change, because they do change. Your routines change. Say you go training Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then you're racing Saturday, Sunday. But if you're over in Belgium or Italy and you have to mix up your schedule that way, and you have to find time to do everything, and there aren't enough days in the week. There honestly aren't. And racing really taught me that, but it made me so mature. Like, I'm only 19, I'm living on my own, and I'm basically doing all of this for myself. And I don't know anyone my age who's actually completely set on what they want to do. Because I know a lot of people have gone to college straight after school and probably drop out or change lectures or change courses after a short while, because they're like, oh, that's actually not what I want to do. But I know what I want to do. So I have no problem putting in that work, putting in the time and the effort and changing my routines for it, and basically breaking my back trying to get there. Like, me as a person, I've changed so much. Like, even Nicci said to me when she came over to COTA, she was like, the change in you is ridiculous. You're so out of yourself. I grew up with very bad anxiety and insecurities, like a lot of teenage girls do. But I would never talk. I'd never speak to anyone. Like, you would have to completely throw me in and probably lie to me and say, we're going to Smith's, but we're not going to Smith's. We're going to an interview. Like, you're lying. And so yeah, meeting people was really, really hard. And obviously then moving to America was really, really hard. I had to meet new people. I had to put myself out there on my own. I didn't have my mom and dad hold my hand or introducing me to other people. I had to do it all myself. And so I just did that. And yes, I was in knots. My stomach would probably, like, the words that were coming out of my mouth were probably me throwing them up. Like, I couldn't speak to people. I really wanted to, but I really couldn't, as much as I wanted to do that and ask for opportunities. And, you know, if I knew it was good for me, I probably still wouldn't do it, because there was such a big barrier. And in the past 9 weeks, how that has changed is ridiculous. I probably wouldn't be able to sit here and speak to you on my own. I probably need Nicci standing in the corner, give me the thumbs up saying, you're doing a good job. Where now it's just, I never thought at 19 I would be able to overcome all of that. And it's from the routines I fell into that gave me so much maturity to say, you need to just do it. Like, say yes, because the only thing people are going to say to you is no. That's the worst thing that's going to happen. And Nicci always said that to me. Send an email there. No, Nicci, I can't. Why? Because what if this, what if that? She goes, the worst thing they're going to do is say no. You don't even know them. And I'm like, you're dead right. And so that's just the mentality now.
Yeah, it's definitely the way to go as well, because even like you're saying, you're talking about the last 9 weeks, but you've definitely, I'm sure, come so far since your racing car debut, Atlanta, February 2022. Do you want to bring us back to that and what that was like? Because some started altogether.
It was crazy. Like, I went over for 2 weeks, and in 2022 I didn't even have my full license. I had never even driven on the road. I'd always just raced karts. So yeah, I came over, and everyone in America, because you drive at 16 over in America, and so everyone was like, you'll be fine, we'll throw you in a car. But the thing was, right, I'd never met Paul Sparta, and Paul's the guy who owns Random Vandals. I'd never met him in my life, okay? I'd met him over a Zoom call once, and he goes, yeah, we're going to bring you over to Road Atlanta. We're going to put you in an M2 BMW. You're going to race in a 6-hour race. I go, yeah, no problem. We can do this. It's fine.
And with no license, you were like, get me in there.
Never sat in a BMW in my life. I never sat in a car on a track in my life. So I was like, okay, we're going to do it. It's going to be fine. And so we went over and I sat in the car and I was like, what am I doing here? I was looking at the pedals. Thank God it's a manual though, because we have the paddle shift. So you're not actually using a clutch, where I wouldn't have known what to do with a clutch because I'd never done anything like that. But for the fact that Paul threw me in there without knowing me was a bit of, not a bit of, a huge confidence boost. The fact that someone I didn't even know had so much confidence in me, and probably more confidence in me than I had in myself, I was like, okay, we'll see how it goes. And if it doesn't end well, that's what we'll say to him. You didn't even know me and you did this. But I won, and it was like, how do you do that? How, like, even me and Nicci were talking about, like, how do you actually do that? Come from not doing anything like that to winning it. Now, of course, I had co-drivers, but I also didn't put the car in the wall. Like, I was able to go over to America for the first time, sit in a car for the first time. Everything was brand new. And I still excelled to my potential at it, which was like, this is what I want to do. Yous are all in a hole now because this is what I want to do, and I'm dragging yous along with me, and it's fine.
It obviously, you showcased though your raw potential there, and that's been recognised by, like you were mentioning earlier, Rafa Racing, selected as one of 9 female drivers from the world to participate in this. What was that like as well? Because it obviously, you're showing everybody that you do deserve to be there, and clearly you do, given everything you've accomplished so far.
So the whole Rafa shootout thing was crazy. I'd never been to a shootout before. I didn't actually know what to expect. So Motorsport Woman were actually the people to get in contact with me about that. Tara Strong messaged me and asked me. She was like, she texted me. She goes, never met her before, never actually spoken to her. She goes, hey. And I was like, hey, how are you? Do you fancy coming for a shootout around November? And I go, yeah, no problem. When is it? And it was straight after Florida. It was very close. And it was as I said, I didn't really know what to expect, didn't know what we were going to be doing. So it was one of those things, as I said, I just said yes to, threw myself into it. And there were 9 other girls there. And you know, growing up, I never really got on with girls because it was always guys I was hanging around with. And so I was very nervous. I wasn't even nervous about getting in the car. I was nervous about having to basically live with 9 girls for a week, not knowing them, not knowing what they were going to think of me. And yeah, like all those things do bubble up in your head as a woman. But it was fine. You know, the first day I got there, I met a girl named Sarah and we clicked off immediately. She's from Jamaica and like she's just the coolest person. And me and her were the exact same. We didn't want to talk to anyone. We were like, I was just completely honest about her. And she said to me, she looked my name up when she seen I was there. She goes, I wasn't going to like you. I thought I wasn't going to like you at all. And then I just turned around to her and had never spoken to her before. And I literally go, I don't want to talk to anyone. And she was like, I don't want to talk to anyone. And so basically we had the exact same feeling. Just because we were honest about it, we got through it. And when they're making a show, I think, from the Rafa shootout, and you will see me and Sarah throughout the whole thing, like just being linked up. And then there was also a driver named Gemma Moore, Sarah Moore's sister, who did W Series. And Gemma was amazing. She excelled at every obstacle in this shootout. And I was like, oh God, I have no chance here at all. Like Gemma was the fastest in the car. She was just, and she had an amazing personality. And so being able, I think it was also a growing experience. As I said, I was so nervous to meet all these girls. And then I threw myself into it, met all these girls who were lovely and I still speak to this day. Like I plan on going over to see Gemma on Sunday, like I'm flying to London. And I built like a great relationship with these girls and a great relationship with Rafa himself, who I am in awe of. Like this guy is amazing. What he's doing for motorsports is amazing. He brought over and ran his own shootout. He brought over these girls to race cars and participate in the shootout, not knowing who they were really. Rafa's only been in motorsport for 2 years himself. I wasn't born into it or anything, and has now, the shootout was basically competing for a drive in the Sprint Cup in the Porsche, and he has 3 drivers for it. One of his own drivers, a guy who did sim racing, I believe, and then Caroline Candice, who won the shootout. And so has never really seen them race before, and is completely funding them and is saying, I'm giving you the chance. I'm giving so much faith into you to make an opportunity out of it. It's like, not many people do that at all. Usually it's like teams that do it, like Mercedes or Ferrari. This guy said, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to give these women a chance. And he did. And that's really inspiring, to be picked to be one of those people through the whole world. I got the opportunity to do it. And it's like, wow, makes you think, is it all in my head that I'm just floating around here? Like, I'm actually being seen to be able to do it. And get those opportunities. Like, I was over in America a week and I got that opportunity. That's the difference. That's the reason I want to live in America. I was there for a week, hadn't even sat in a car or raced, and I had a message saying, do you want to go to COTA to do a shootout in a Porsche? Yeah. Why would I say no? It was amazing. So, I'm just praying that more of those opportunities come along. I do stay in contact with Rafa still, and I look forward to hopefully seeing him in 2024 around the racetrack and bits like that, because in that week, like, the relationships that were growing are ridiculous. Like, I miss them so much already.
Finally, wrapping it up there, Alyx, what's next for you? What are you looking forward to next year?
I'm just looking forward to getting more experience. Like, next year isn't, going to be a set, this is the championship you're doing. At the moment, I'm going to be doing a bit of WRL championship over in America with the BMW. But I just hope for opportunities like the shootout. I hope for more of those kind of opportunities to come my way. So yeah, next year is going to be a mixed bag of stuff, hopefully. Just finding my feet over in America. But and hopefully getting a bit of sponsorship for 2025.
Well, I hope you get that secured. I actually can't wait to follow your journey now and see how you get on. Thanks so much for joining us here today.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in. We hope to see you again for the next episode. Be sure to subscribe to Her Sports social platforms to get the latest women in sports content.